based on your writing and research, you have a great interest in multi-culturalism and intercultural relationships. And as I've mentioned before, today we want to hear about your own cultural experience as a student, in the past as a Chinese American young woman. So maybe we should start with you just telling us a little bit about the beginning.
Yes, I grew up in Los Angeles, California, in the United States, in the 70s and 80s, and I started dancing ballet like so many young girls. And that is the main form that I studied from, age, 7 or 8, all the way through high school.
Only ballet, no modern dance?
Only ballet. No, there was no modern dance where I grew up, only ballet and jazz. I guess I took a couple of classes in jazz, although I was at a pretty serious ballet studio that had a lot of prejudices, I think, about what was considered acceptable forms of dance. And so we were not ever introduced to modern. So when I went to UC Berkeley as an undergraduate for my college degree, I thought I'd given up ballet or dance altogether. But that's because I didn't realize there was this thing called modern dance. And I discovered modern dance at UC Berkeley. And all of a sudden it felt so liberating because I realized, my body type was acceptable in modern dance, and the training that I brought with the ballet was actually, an advantage. And yet it was a real, speaking about habitus, it was really, it took a long time for me to learn, to break out of the bodily habitus of ballet and learn how to dance like a modern dancer.
Well, if you can talk a little bit about your identity as a Chinese American and your encounter with these totally, of course, Western styles and agendas. When did you feel that there is a gap, or when your kind of awareness became more political, I would say? Or
I did dabble for a hot minute with some Chinese dance when I was in high school, because there happened to be, a family friend had a housekeeper who had been a Chinese dancer in China. And so she taught me for a little bit in the living room.
Did you like it?
I did, but it was, it was so foreign to me, right? Because my habitus by that time was ballet. And the pedagogy was so different too, because you learned via choreography rather than sort of drilling codified steps the way that I knew how to do in ballet. And so, the kinesphere in Chinese dance is so different. It's very, very tight. So it was a lot to adjust myself to as a teenager. So it didn't last long, I'll admit. And I think in the 70s and 80s, the availability of other kinds of forms, was not so broad. So my interest in my own cultural background and how that might be translated via the body developed quite late. It wasn't until I got to New York in my 20s that I started to explore that, and I started dancing with this company, Chen and Dancers. I was unusual, as an Asian American body, dancing with mostly, other white bodies. And, it wasn't always easy. One moment I remember very clearly that, that like really highlighted that was we were doing a production of Giselle, and I was in the corps, and my dance teacher put a bunch of lighter pancake on my body, on my arms, because, when you're in that moment when all the arms show up, mine stuck
out.
What
are they lighter?
Yeah, for being too dark. So
dark.
I have moments like that. And then even in New York, moments where I remember being one of 2 Asian American dancers in a company, and we held this audition, and the company director spotted this other Asian American woman who had made it past, a couple of cuts. And then he's like, we can't take her. We already have two. So, there was a quota.
Yes.
Anyway, those are my personal experiences with regard to, how I see the trend today. I'm hoping that that students in our programs are not experiencing those kinds of things. And now we're in a moment which, I think is the trend in a lot of arts institutions to really think hard about how we can decolonize our curriculum and our programs. And I feel pretty good about where we are. I think we have some limitations, trying to honor where students come from and what they bring into the classroom with regards to whatever kinds of movement experiences they have, and legitimizing those experiences in the classroom rather than trying to force them into the box of
Yes.
modern dance, and the habitus, the kind of prejudices about particular kinds of bodies and body movements, and instead saying, okay, you have a background in hip hop, or okay, you have a background in Bharatanatyam, let's use that, and celebrate it, and allow that to be a strength and a contribution in the classroom rather than a weakness.
That sounds great. Thank you, San Kwan.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about the dance curriculum in Israel, and
we're looking forward for you to come